I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, one of the renowned geopolitical and financial cycle guys. He came on last time and basically said gold was going to go up. The markets, watch out, they're going to be coming down, and rates are going to be coming down too. Which was I'm oversimplifying his work, but it is Charles Nenner, CharlesNenner.com, the Charles Nenner Research Center. Charles Nenner, thanks for being on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, it's an interesting time, so I have a lot to discuss.
We do have a lot to discuss. Let's just start with interest rates. You said they were going to go down, and a lot of people were going, "Oh, no, they're going to go up." And you're like, "No. Well, we're looking at right now. The yield curve is inverted. You've got the 1 month money is 2.07 as we do this. This is Tuesday of this week, so this is going to air Wednesday. And then the 10 year is 1.75, and the 30 year is 2.30. Where are interest rates going to go from here? Are they as low as they're going to get right now?
Well, I just repeat what I've been saying for years. We're going to have a deflationary crisis, and we're still looking for lower yields. I see the 30-year rate the yield can get as low as 1.8.
For 30-year money, and would the yield curve be inverted? Would the 1 month still be 2%? I mean, it's kind of weird now. It's like, Mr. Hunter, you can get 2% for 1 month. I say, okay, let's stretch it out for 10 years. Oh, for that, you can get 1.75%, which is kind of bizarre. Is the yield curve going to stay inverted?
Yeah, no, it will invert it, but for the next 2 years also the short-term rates are going down. Everything is going down. It's a very complicated situation, and people do not understand what's going on because they have stories about China, story about yuan, story about the GDP. It seems that nobody does any work himself. I always repeat that, and nobody knows what the situation is going to be half a year or a year from now, and you have to invest on that. So I wrote a whole piece how funny it was that the clever institutions I work with was selling all the time when S&P was around 3,000, 2020, and the small public was buying, and the clever money was so happy that there were stories about the Fed, and there were stories about Japan, and there were stories about China, and stories about Europe, and every time the small investor buys, and all the time they get a chance to sell and sell and sell until they finish selling, and then suddenly something happens, and it's the small investor who holds the cash, and he's in a crisis, and then here we go down. So I don't know if they do it on purpose, but I always stress to the small investor, understand how this game works. It doesn't work the way you think it works. Even now when we're speaking, yesterday the Dow was down 1,000. I didn't hear one person say maybe you should sell. It's always buy, and they don't do people a favor because they continue to buy until they have so many losses, and then in the end they sell. Even at the bottom of 2009, I didn't hear CNBC saying sell, sell, sell. So it's a whole crooked game. And I always warn people, don't listen to all these guys and follow how it really works, how to invest and make money in the stock market.
The interest rates here, are they, there's a lot of people, I mean, John Williams, not John Williams, Chattesnets.com, I always have to point this out. John Williams at the New York Fed now, he was in San Francisco. He was calling for 0% interest rates, like now. What is he talking about?
Well, the Fed is, I think we just discussed it one more time when the Fed says, we'll take a look from months to months. And I think I brought that up because we don't look from months to months. We know what the indicators are in 1 year. And then you remember me, I said, does it mean the Fed doesn't have the work that we do, or they just try to fool the people and say we go from months to months because they don't want to say, listen, in 1 year we're in a recession, we're in depression, we're in deflation. I don't know what's going on there. But I'm very worried if they don't have the same systems I developed that they can say we're going only from 1 month to months. Now, we're finished with the cheap money. It's not going to work anymore. And that's what the big investors understand. Even if we have 0% rates, it's not going to keep this economy going. You cannot keep it going anymore.
Are we going to go to negative like Europe? Can you talk about Europe and relative to us?
Well, as you know, Europe, it looks really, really, very, very weak, and their inflation is almost not existing, and it's like the biggest part of the world that's already going down in a recession, and I think it's going to be much more of a recession. China's not doing too well.
Well, wait. Let me back up here. Europe is already in recession. Talk about
Okay.
that.
The definition of recession is made by somebody, and we accept the definition of recession. So we don't really know what a recession is. On my indicators, where the production and all the numbers are getting negative, I call it a recession. Maybe not officially according to the encyclopedia, but I call it's a recession.
Okay, and then what about China?
Well, China is getting close to that situation. And just to finish, the yields, I sit here in Holland, and the yields in Holland and in Germany are minus. You have to pay the state half a percentage in order to hold 10-year paper. So so you see the cheap money doesn't do anything anymore. Even if we're minus 2%, it's not going to help anymore. It just cannot be saved anymore. And the financial institutions and the Fed did a great job of keeping this going and going and going. And the last thing they did is making money very cheap. And also that doesn't work anymore. So we're going to get in a big problem.
When you talk about, and I want you to explain this because people say this, and I don't think they understand what you're saying in terms of deflation. People are saying, no, 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 all my expenses are going up, and you're talking about deflation. Would you explain that? Are you talking about bonds devaluing? Is that what you're talking about, deflation? Or
I'm talking about core deflation.
so you think prices are getting cheaper?
Well,
Explain your deflation. I'm not trying to argue with you. I just
No.
don't understand it. Go ahead.
It's very simple. There's a core deflation that comes out every month, and the Fed and the European banks were trying to get it to 2%. Why do you want to get it to 2%? Because if you have outstanding loans, a lot of outstanding loans as a government, then you're being saved by inflation, because the debt is going to be worth less. In the 30s, Roosevelt had a big deficit, and because inflation started later in the 30s, 40s, so they only pay back like 10 cents on the dollar. So if you don't have inflation, you have to pay back all that money, and it doesn't become worth less. But they're not succeeding to get inflation. So the cycles show me that the time that is over, I mean, all the time there was no inflation, but now the cycles are down. We're going to get deflation, and everybody continues to talk about inflation. It's the same thing as the market's going to break up. We're going to have a new leg up when the Dow was 27,000. And I says, no, the cycles are down, and we're going to break down. And until it breaks down, nobody pays attention because everybody says the same thing. So deflation means is that prices are going down soon, which means is that if you're going to buy a car, the price goes down, and let's say General Motors is going to make less profit. And if they make less profit, they have to fire a lot of people, and those people have no buying power anymore, so they can buy less. So other goods go down, and it's a cycle that goes down.
Is housing going to go down as well with cars?
Housing is going down as well as cars. Take a look at the home builders. I think I did look lately. I think they're down 30-40% from the top. We saw the same thing in 2007, and the housing price is still holding up, but the insiders know what's going on, and the housing stocks are already down big.
And you're saying that now, let's say if they cut 30-year money from 3.8 or 4% or whatever, and they make 30-year money 2.8% or whatever, you say it's not going to hold up housing. It's the cheap money is no longer working.
It's not longer working, but again, you get in a field that I know fundamentals like other people. I had this big discussion when I work at Goldman Sachs. My job is to know what's going to happen and why it's going to happen. I leave it up to all kinds of stories and media, because that's not the real reason. So I just deal with what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So we bought all these bonds against everybody's idea, and we made a huge profit. We were long the VIX because we knew the market was tanking. We made up 600, 700% on our VIX position. We were long gold. It did great. You ask me why? I can tell you a story, but I'm not sure about it, and it's a waste of time. So I always try to explain to people, if you want to compare yourself to the real investors, and sometimes I talk about the Buffett indicator. The Buffett indicator is a bit complicated, the capitalization of the market divided by the GDP, and it was extremely high. And I says, get out, and now suddenly on Bloomberg, we see that it says that Buffett is having the most cash since I don't know how long. But that's always after the fact because he's not going to tell you when he's selling because he needs some idiots to buy it from him, with all respect. So, so after the fact, you hear that he was selling. So you don't have to do all that work yourself. So always tell people in difficult times you can go to our website. You get everything for free for a couple of months, and you know what's going to happen. And you don't have to listen to all kinds of stories. It saves you a lot of time, like it saves me a lot of time. I don't read the financial papers. I don't watch the television. I have nothing to do with that, and we still know what's going on.
How far is it going to go from here? They're all talking about buying the bottom now, buying the dip. Tell me about where you're okay. What do you see now in the stock market?
Well, the next low is in a couple of days, so they will do some buying. We have a little bounce today, but it's going to sell off one more time. I think the low is, if I remember well, the 8th or 9th of August, and we're going to have a bounce, and everybody says, oh, it's over, it's over, it's over, and that gives the big institutional investors another chance to sell again when the market moves up. Um, Yesterday I wrote about it. The 200-day moving average was around 2,800 on S&P, and it said institutions have this golden rule that they have to sell once it goes below the 200-day moving average, whatever happens. So they bought it when it was at 2,800, a little bit below, and it didn't break. And it's all manipulation until everybody has the position he wants, and they bring out all kinds of stories to get the public buying or selling whatever they want. There was this famous column in the Wall Street Journal that was called Hurt on the Street. And Hurt on the Street was insiders who were giving you a tip. Well, what they did is if they had a big position IBM that they want to sell, they had the Hurt on the Street column. They says buy, buy, buy IBM. In the meantime, they sold. Well, every reader of Wall Street Journal was buying IBM. That's what the game is. If it's legal or not legal, that's not my business. I just always try to explain to people, you know, don't listen to all these people, or you do your work yourself, or take a look what we're doing.
You said that I believe you called July as well. Somebody else on my air called July. I think it was Bull Pony. You said July. It's going to selling off in July, and sure enough, on the last day of the month, where they cut a quarter point, the first time they cut in 10 years, boom, and then down, 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 right into August. Tell me about where do you see longer term for the stock market then?
Well, let me first tell you we have intraday updates. And the interesting thing is when the market sold off before the Fed, maybe you remember, then the next day it went up again because it says, well, maybe the Fed is doing the right thing. And then I said, well, we have a cycle top tomorrow. And right on that cycle top, then it says, oh, now Trump came out with a tweet about China and the whole market was selling off again. That's not a coincidence. I mean, it's so predictable. You just have to look at the facts. So if you repeat your question, then I can answer because I forgot the question.
So where do you think the stock market's going to go from here? Where's the longer term this fall? Some people are calling for, a depression. They're calling for a big sell-off. You've been calling for that eventually. Sometime I think 2021. I don't know your exact dates, but you've been calling for that. Do you think we get a sell-off in the election year? Do you think the market's going to be tanking in the 2020 election year, or how do you see your cycles?
Well, just talk about the election year. I mean, Trump maybe is not the most politically correct person, but what he does is good for the economy. So I guess, now I'm not talking about my work, I'm talking in general. I guess when it becomes clear that maybe he will not win and the Democrats will take over with the socialistic ideas, the market has a reason to tank. It will tank anyway. Is it because of China, because of Trump is not going to succeed? Whatever reason, the market is going to come down big in the next 2.5 years. I mean, it's really going to be very bad. So people should go on cash and just let the market come down. You're not going to be emotionally involved. Watch it from the sidelines. And in 2.5, 3 years, when a cycle bottom, you have a very good entry point and you buy for the next 20 years.
Wow. And gold. You predicted gold's going to go up. Some other people did that too, but you did without question. Said we're a buyer here. We think it might go down a little bit, but it's going to go up from here. Sure enough, it sure did. Went up pretty big actually. It's almost up 20% since you were on last. So that's a pretty good call. I'm not a trader, but 20% in 2 months. Where's gold and where is silver? Let's talk about gold first and then silver.
Yeah, you remember we talked about that most people think that inflation is what brings gold up, and then we discussed that in most bull markets in gold is deflationary crisis because there's nowhere to hide. We're talking now in 2 days, the gold cycle tops, so we're selling our gold position, and I don't know. I have to check it. If you really want to know, the people should to write into our research. Then we see a low, and we're going to buy back gold. And this gold is going at least to $2,500, and we're just in a new bull market. And silver is not so much in a bull market. It little bothers me that the silver gold ratio doesn't pick up, but cycles on silver are not promising for the next couple of months. It's mostly gold.
Mostly gold. Oh, that's very interesting. But you think eventually gold will be? I keep getting this picture of silver. You know how roller derby used to be, and they used to whip somebody past up to the front of the crowd. It's like gold's going to whip silver up to the front of the crowd eventually. Is that what's going to happen? It's going to take off like crazy, or what?
No, in the end, silver will take over because, like I said, the small investors is mostly in silver because it's cheaper, not in gold. So the small investor is not really in gold yet because he has no
Or
idea where
silver?
gold.
Not really in silver yet.
No, so once they go into silver, the silver will start outperforming gold, but that's a couple of months away.
Ah, so this would still be a good buying opportunity at 16 and change for silver. You'd be a buyer here.
No, no, because cycles are down. You have to wait till the cycle bottoms, and I don't have it ready to tell you exactly what the date is.
But longer term, is silver going to be higher today? Excuse me, higher 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now than it is today? Do you think?
Definitely.
Yeah, you always look for the exact. I know you always look for the exact, precise bottom, and it's very scientific and very precise. But overall, silver's going to go up with gold.
Correct.
And you're talking about deflation. So in other words, people lose confidence in government, and they lose confidence in government bonds with the like were saying, where you are and what the Netherlands or in Holland that you're paying 0.5% for somebody to hold your money and give it back to you 10 years from now. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. So I asked the institutions, why would you hold that money if you have to pay the government? The answer is they still think there's going to be a breakup of the European Union. There's going to be a North European Union and a South European Union, and that will bring the euro sky high. And that's because that's why they're holding the Dutch and the German bunds, waiting for this breakup.
And do you think the breakup's going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think the whole thing's going to go down? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's going to happen because people become very restless if economics turn down, and you're going to be a very bad economic situation, and then it's not going to be held together anymore.
So you think the UK, they're gone, they're out? You think they're gone no matter what?
Yeah, otherwise the UK blows up. They really have to go out. Internally, they cannot sell that they're not going out.
And then, just so I understand this, so the northern, basically part of the UK, the rich part of it's going to shed, Portugal, the pigs, Portugal, Italy,
Germany,
Greece.
maybe Italy, maybe even France.
Oh, really?
It's France is in a very bad situation also.
Why?
Financially and economically and socially, it's kind of hopeless situation with the French. Every time they have a new president, but nobody can fix it. The immigration took over, and they're ruling the country, and there's not much you can do about it.